Chapter 6 Adventures Abroad in Bed. It is by studying little things that we attain the great art of having as little misery and as much happiness as possible. Samuel Johnson, Boswell, Volume 1, page 822. My interest in the starlings grew rapidly, and because I felt that I had so wronged them in my early judgment, I wanted to know much more about them, as we do about friends we are coming to love. Were they really mockers? And what other birds did they mimic? Were they the destroyers and pests I had always thought them? And where did they come from, and how? "Will you do me an especial favour?" I asked my excellent and obliging nurse. "I will indeed," she said. So I asked her to write to the ornithologist at Washington and see if there was not some bulletin or pamphlet on the starling which we could obtain. It was long in coming. A sick man grows impatient, but it arrived at last, and it had a portrait of my friend on the cover. It was an excellent and expansive study of the bird, some 30 pages, which my nurse read aloud to me a little at a time. It seems that the bird has been a native of America only since 1890, when it settled, an encouraged immigrant in Central Park, New York. Like many other alien, it had a struggle for years to live, but presently it began to spread into other eastern states and is now increasing even beyond the Allegheny Mountains. In time, it will no doubt become one of our commonest American birds. I was pleased to find that, despite certain harmful and unmannerly habits, don't we all have them, it is economically a most useful citizen of the country, destroying innumerable insects that infest our farms and gardens. In one way, this excellent biography of my friend the starling did not satisfy me. It resembled some other lives of the poets I have sadly read, like one of Shelley, from which I emerged dripping with facts, but unable to understand how any such person could possibly have written the ode to a skylark. I was not unmindful of the patience of the investigators in counting the number of weevils, grubs, and millipedes that my hero had for breakfast, but it no more explained to me some of the things I wanted to know than an accurate account of the yards of spaghetti Caruso ate for supper would have accounted for his singing, not long afterwards, of an aria from Aida. But it was a fine and interesting book, and so aroused our enthusiasm that it was not long before my gifted nurse, sitting at the window, could mimic the ironical whistle of the starling so accurately that she was accepted as an honorary member of their tea parties. At least her notes were promptly answered. Soon our book was in circulation through other rooms in the hospital, and more than one patient began to listen to the morning meetings of the starlings. A most interesting and surprising characteristic of the starlings I have observed more closely since I left the hospital, and that is the evolutions of large flocks of the birds in the air. The precision and discipline are truly extraordinary. The way in which they will suddenly change direction, open ranks, close ranks, wheel, rise, fall, all in perfect unison, and, so far as I have been able to observe, without any one leader and without any note or cry of command. No flocking birds I know have greater gifts in this respect, and nothing except the extraordinary social discipline of bees and ants is more inexplicable. There is a secret of mass movement, a guidance of mass opinion that is as yet unknown to man. I wonder if some social philosopher one day will not wish to study faithfully the gregarious habits, the mob psychology of such birds as the starling and of the bees and ants. My morning experiences were not only a source of comfort and delight to me in that sorrowy place, but they opened the way to new adventures abroad in bed. The nurse did not see me, nor the doctors know of it, nor was it written down in the sober sheets of my daily record, but I was going out again. Though covered to the chin with a white counterpane, apparently quite helpless, I was in reality often abroad among my own hills, or in my garden, or walking the pleasant elm-shaded streets of the little town I love best of all. I don't mean by this any darting memories full of sadness or regret. I mean that I was there. I was there to complete absorption, so that I was not conscious for the time being of the gabled room where I lay, nor of the hospital, nor of my own illness. It was all simple enough. I would, in my imagination, step out of my doorway, and there, oh vividly, was the garden and the orchard and the meadow, and far beyond, the everlasting hills. The steps in the path being open before me, what could I do but walk down it? And walking down it, what could I do but look at or smell or touch the various shrubs, flowers, trees I love? Or the corn or the blackberry bushes or the nut trees, dear with the familiarity of many years of intimate association. Such moments, most of all in May, watching the young bees playing in front of the hives and the catbirds in the apple trees singing like angels in heaven and stealing the bees, and the tulips in bloom and the new corn pushing up through the brown earth and the newly sowed grassland coming green with clover and timothy and redtop, and all still and sweet. Such moments in a sunny forenoon. Sometimes, as I lay there, a past experience or adventure would return to me with such intensity of remembrance that it seemed to me I was living it again. One in particular, since it was so charged with emotion, I tried to put down in the notebook I had begun to keep in the little desk at the head of my bed. A certain old barn I love well, a great, grey old barn, reaching out its sheds like wings on either side to hover the cattle when they came in at evening with swinging udders smelling of new milk. I love the cavernous open doorway where the barn swallows fly chittering in and out. I love the dusty smell of hay as I step inside. I can hear the horses stirring in their stanchions below, and the cows coming in to their stalls. Up there towards the west, a finger of sunlight reaches through a crack and lies bright upon the hills of hay. These are hewn beams. You can see each stroke of the broad axe or adze. A flood of sunshine comes through the farther doorway. From within, looking out, I can see the pleasant rolling country, fine fields and verdure-clad hills with the sun upon them. The wind runs sweet in the grass, the crows are flying. There is no frame made by man that can equal the doorway of this barn, and no picture anywhere so well worth framing. Here in the barn I stand looking, remembering. There is the well-worn farm wagon, with the hay rack still upon it. There is the buggy covered with cloth to keep the dust away. Upon the wooden door of the storeroom, generations of Dwights have marked the score of corn in baskets or rye in bags. 4 straight tallies and a cross tally to make 5. Here they have added up the totals and sometimes cast them into the sure measure of dollars and cents. On the left, here, is the ancient harness room where, upon great wooden pegs worn brown and smooth with years of usage, hang the collared harnesses, the horse blankets, a girl's saddle. It was Nanette's. I remember well Nanette, with the wind in her hair and the high look in her eyes as she rode. And here is all that remains of a pony cart. It was Lauriston's. It was gay once with paint, and there was a fancy name on the back, but now the padded seat is torn, and one of the thills is gone. Lauriston lies in a hillside grave in France. I could not go on. All these things, and many others, came back to me as I lay there in bed, charged with emotion, tinged with strange sadness, moments in which nothing of any importance had happened, and yet so intensely lived that they returned with a warmth and clarity I can scarcely express. So it was, now that I had found the way, that I began adventuring abroad in bed.